Hi, welcome to Healing the Trauma Within. In this session, I am talking with Samantha Ruth, and we are talking about healing from grief and loss. A little bit about Samantha. She is a psychologist, speaker, best-selling author, and proud founder of Grief Hab, a 24/7 support community open to anyone who has experienced a loss. She helps people around the world turn their pain into their power by guiding them to be their true selves, not who they think they need to be, by embracing their differences and by living life on their own terms. Samantha's mission is to change the way the world views both grief and mental health so people can speak about whatever issues they have and get the help they not only need but deserve without fear of judgment, labels, and repercussions. In her free time, you can find Samantha with her pups on one of their outdoor adventures. Music fuels Samantha's soul. Family means everything to her, and honoring her late husband, Jim, and making him proud gives her life daily purpose. Thank you for joining me today, Samantha.
Thank you so much for having me and for this wonderful event.
Well, it's much needed, unfortunately. I like to say I want to work myself out of a job, but I don't see that ever happening in my lifetime, unfortunately.
No, not in this world.
No, trauma is just too integrated at this point. It's funny that you mentioned in the green room that today's International Widows Day. And when I was reading your bio, you mentioned that you want to shed more light on grief and mental health. And we were talking about how we don't really want a day of celebration. It's not something that we celebrate, being widows. So,
Right.
It's definitely important that we speak out about things and try and get that changed and get more understood.
100%. People don't understand grief, and any education or awareness we can bring to the subject, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I found that unless they've gone through it, they just can't get it. I know that was true for me.
I specialize in trauma, and it was true for me.
Yeah.
Certainly did not know how to cope or handle my own loss, even though I had been counseling others for years.
Yeah, it's kind of like the cobbler's children have no shoes when it comes to dealing with our own stuff sometimes. Unless you've gone through it, you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I had no idea that it was going to take forever just to come out of the spiral.
And going through it is what helped me recognize and understand the similarities between grief and mental health, because people don't know how to treat you when you're grieving. And people also, they're the same stereotypes and misperceptions with mental health and mental illness. So I felt exactly like I did when I would talk about my anxiety. Nobody knows what to say or how to act. And so sometimes people do nothing, which is the last thing we need.
Absolutely. I found that, for about the first 2 weeks is when everybody checks in on you on a daily basis, making sure that you're eating, checking up to make sure that you don't need anything and all of that. After about that 2-week period, they kind of drop off. I've found. And I think it's because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah. And in my experience, there were people who dropped off that absolutely, that was like a secondary loss. It was painful, but there were people who showed up that I never would have expected they have been amazing support. So you do find out who will be there.
Right. Who's going to be on your team. I found some widow support groups right away because I needed somewhere that I could go that they understood when I just was like, I'm just so lost. I just want him back. I just, all those feelings, especially in the beginning when it's fresh and raw. And I made, one of my best friends today. I met him 2 years ago in the support group, and we were just like brother and sister, and we just got really close because we both get it. And
it's an instant connection. You don't have to meet or know a person. We are all in the club we didn't ask to be in or be a part of. So I feel like very bonded
Yeah. Now we're talking a lot about, losing our spouses, but grief and loss can be losing a pet, losing a family member, losing a loved one. I mean, I've been through losing a lot of pets, my father, my mother, my best friend. I mean, losing a job,
Yeah. In this day and age, I was about to add that we've all lost normalcy.
normalcy. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of different types of loss, and with that comes grief.
I feel like we need to be taught that, because I feel like our society, like you said, like the first couple weeks, people are there and understand that you are a complete mess.
Yeah.
But then life goes on for the rest of the world, but not for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's talk about maybe in the first stages of grief, what do we do? How do we just kind of plow through it? Because I mean, basically we're just like zombies in those first, few days, few weeks, depending on what we're losing. How do we cope during those times?
I think one of the most important things is making ourselves a priority. And for me, it was like the first time in my life I was doing that. I take care of everybody else. And as women, we're caretakers. So I had to make a concrete decision that I had to do things my way in order to heal. And that really was a decision and an awareness. And I think everyone needs to give themselves that, honor that. You have gone through something traumatic and you are allowed to grieve your way for however long it takes, no matter what anybody else looking in thinks. So for me, that was the first step, and then accepting help.
And that's the hard one, I think, because we are women, we want to do it all on our own. We're supposed to be strong and take care of everybody else. Accepting that help is really tough.
And
But
verbalizing it, and you don't even know what you need when you're in those initial stages of shock and grief. So I don't know that this is what I knew and did, but it's what I work with people to do. And that's immediately identifying the people you really will reach out to, because reaching out is a big step by itself. So we need to know ahead of time and like have a list of 5 people that we really truly feel comfortable enough to say, hey.
right. Yeah, I'm having a day. I need some help.
And
Yeah.
I know that's a difficult sentence for many.
Mhm.
So I think code words, I've done this with teenagers in the past with their
Oh,
parents,
wow.
but I created a code word. That way my whole tribe, like my support network, knows the difference between, hey, can we talk today, and peanut butter pancakes, which is mine. They know that means I need you. And they also interact with each other to make sure someone responds.
That's fantastic. That is a great idea. Um, yeah, I like that. Coming up with the code word for your family. If I text you this, that means somebody better come to me like immediately.
And another widow suggested writing down the things that we struggle the most with, so that when someone says, do you need anything, everybody means well when they do that, but they don't understand that it is a very stressful question for us. So if we have it right there in front of us, we can say, it would be great if you could drop some soup off on my porch.
Right. Yeah. Come take the dogs out, clean the house for me, do my laundry. Oh, no, wait. That's my list. That's my everyday list.
Those difficult things, like
They are though.
cooking and eating. I don't know one person who's gone through a traumatic loss that cares about or thinks about those things. So we need people to be there to say, or I had to set timers.
I lived on ice cream for the first 3 months. That ice cream and protein shakes were about the only thing that I could actually get down. And I said, you know what? It's not healthy by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't care. This is my time. This is the only thing I can get in my body, that I'm going to get it in my body,
And things just keep coming at you. So having all of that in place and knowing, like, I was eating Cheerios out of the box, made my mom cry every time. But that was, again, it's like baby food. It's what I could tolerate. and I had zero energy or motivation to cook.
Oh, I
and
know.
for many, like cooking is something we did together. So that was, that took a long time for me.
Yeah.
So getting help with things like nutrition and basic daily living skills. I think we all put pressure on ourselves to get back to functioning at a certain point. And honestly, I think when we're grieving, our only job is to heal and survive.
Mm-hmm. And I think society puts pressure on us. Think about it. When you're working an outside job as an employee, they might give you like a 2-week grief period, and then you have to go back to work. You suffer a huge loss of somebody, and 2 weeks is not even remotely enough to,
And
get
they
some
expect you to
semblance of sanity.
they expect you to function through the day as you had before, which
Right.
like employers, I hope that you are interested in learn, like that doesn't happen. Our brains change. We
Mhm.
need to shift the way we function. So the more support we have, if there wasn't that stress and anxiety about, oh my God, I have to get through the day and I can't fall apart. Well, we fall apart.
And we never know when we're going to.
And we need to be allowed, there just needs to be a place. And in this world today, with everyone with anxiety and all the things going on, we just need that period. People need a safe place.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how do we go, the next steps? How do we, everybody knows the stages of grief. And we know that, I know that they're not linear. They
Thank you
just
for
kind
saying.
of, they're like this. You're on a roller coaster. You never know what stage is going to hit when, how long it's going to last, if it's going to come back,
They
so
can
how do we
coexist.
make?
You can have two at once.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So how do we get through that? How do we heal from that?
I think really, truly, we have to be kind and patient with ourselves. The most pressure for me was coming from me.
Mhm.
And think of how you would treat somebody else. You would, you wouldn't pressure someone who was going through a trauma to do A, B, and C. So I think we need to just be that kind to ourselves and honor our journey, which mine was very different than what the world expected.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, I don't think the world knows, what the journeys are like. And everybody's journey is different. I talked to one lady who lost her baby, and it took her 6 years to finally get rid of all the stuff that she had for the baby. Whereas I was cleaning out Mark's closet 2-3 days after he died. I had to. That was what I had to do.
And the world will judge both, right?
Absolutely.
And it is do it your way. The
Mhm.
world doesn't know, like you just said. I love that. Only we know, and my way is different than yours. And it's right for you. If you don't want to let go of things right away, don't.
Yeah.
And if you do.
Mhm.
There's if there was a book to heal, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right. I mean, there's some great books out there, don't get me wrong, but
Like
there's
a roadmap or like
yeah,
a
there's
GPS.
there's no, this is step one, this is step two, this is it doesn't work that way.
Right.
I when I lost my best friend, I threw myself into the animal rescue that she and I had just started. And, at one point I ended up with like 30 animals in my house that I was rescuing. I just kind of went overboard, but that was my way of dealing with it. Or I
And
guess
mine
it,
was nature. And
yeah.
that doesn't look like anything to outsiders, but it was so therapeutic for me.
Mhm.
So you have to, I was finger painting at 3 a.m. when I couldn't sleep.
There you go. You got to do what
Like
you got to
I
do.
went back to things, anything that might be, it's hard to think about fun or joy, but anything that might help you pass the time in a pleasant way that you're choosing, not that someone else is telling you you should be doing.
Right. Absolutely. Healing from a loss is very personal, and everybody's timeline is
And that's okay. And that's how it should be.
different. Mhm. Yeah. And we have to understand that as a society.
Yeah, I think that's the most, and it's not easy. People judge. I still wear my wedding ring. People ask why, but if I'm not okay, I'm going to let you know I'm not okay. I'm not going to fake it and pretend. And I think that's the only way that people will know more is
Right.
if we stop putting on a face like we're okay, and we let people know that this is an ongoing journey and grief doesn't end.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I I'm in a new relationship. I'm engaged now, but he knows and understands that I am still going to have my moments, and I'm still going to have times where I'm sad, I'm depressed. I might break down and start crying for absolutely no reason. Um, I've made that very clear. This is what you're going to get from me now. And I've had to do that, but like you said, you still wear your wedding ring. I had to take mine off. It literally was burning my finger. It felt like it was burning my finger. I had to get it off. I couldn't wear it. And, that was my journey. And you still wearing yours is your journey. And there's no right or wrong.
Yes. And I hope everybody can hear that, because I did feel judged and I did feel pressured, and I wasn't fun Sam anymore. And I'm not the same person, and that's okay. And anybody who won't accept that isn't really letting go of toxic people is another important part of the journey. If people can't accept and support where we are and meet us where we are, for me, it's not healthy to be around them.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with cutting them out of your life, even if they're family.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned, a little way back about the changes that we go through. Let's talk about that a little bit. What are some of the changes that we experience when we lose somebody close to us?
Our brain absolutely changes. I'm interviewing somebody about the neurological changes that happen when you experience a trauma. So I don't know if everybody I know says, I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like I'm losing my mind. That is a part of grief. So you're not less intelligent. You just have to learn new ways, because our brains change, and 80 to 90% of our brain is devoted to accepting the reality of what we just went through. And that happens still. I don't know about you, but I'll see somebody wearing something and I'll be like, that's Jim's jacket. Yeah, and my brain still has to remind myself, or you wake up and you roll over and you go to, my brain still has to go through that on a regular basis. So that's what I think the world really needs to understand, is that we just don't function the same.
Mm-mm. For me, memory loss was a big thing. Widow's brain, brain fog. I had a bad memory to begin with because of all the traumas I've had, in my past, but you throw that one on top of it, and if I don't write it down, I don't remember it.
Yes. And it took me a long time to be able to read again, things that I truly told people to treat me like an infant, because I felt like I had to learn everything all over again. And I don't read the way I did before. I still can read, but it changed. And for probably a year, I had to listen to Audible books.
That's interesting. I have found that I don't read the same either. It used to be I could read for hours on end, and now I have to read in short spurts, because otherwise my attention goes away. I developed ADD, and my attention goes away, and I don't understand what I'm reading. I have to go back and read it. So
yes.
Yeah. So it's amazing how, and I don't mean amazing in a good way, I just mean amazing how we change from loss.
And accepting that and understanding that that's just the way to heal, and letting go of that pressure. I wanted to function the way I did before, and in terms of learning and read, those types of things. And once I stopped fighting that And I said, I have to figure out new ways. Then I was able to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what are some other tips that you have for us on healing and coping with loss?
I think an important one is listening to our bodies.
Mhm.
We have instincts, whether it's our stomach growling and we don't have the urge to cook, or a bad feeling about going to like, I think it's really important not to fight that, especially when you're grieving. If you are tired at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, rest. I don't care what the traditional world looks like or how it functions. You're probably not sleeping through the night and you need it. And in order to function at our best, we really have to take care of ourselves. So for me, learning to rest was a big one, taking a pause.
Yeah. For me, another one that I really made sure that I did was to experience the emotions
Absolutely.
rather than trying to stuff them down. With Mark, I let them really come out, the crying, the anger, the, the confusion, whatever I was feeling. I made sure I allowed that to happen.
That's listening to your body. That's
Yeah.
so huge. And we haven't, like you said, we have instincts to fight it. Or, I didn't want to cry in public. Well, I had a meltdown in Whole Foods. That's just the reality of it. And you know what? It ended up leading to something. It needed to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I broke down in the car. Just my kids will look at me and they'll be like, why are you crying? It's like, well, that song made me think of Mark or whatever. Um, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. You just need a moment. And they know that I need a moment. I'm gonna feel it. I might cry for a couple minutes and then I'm gonna move on and I'll be okay.
And that is what the world needs to understand. And that stretch of time that I need a moment in the beginning, it's not a moment and then you move on. If that moment is an evening, a day, but as you start healing, it does become shorter. Like I now can have a moment. And I didn't believe that was possible. Like I thought everything would knock me back down to my knees.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want people to know that even if it's a couple of years, like there is hope. And doing things for your, like meditation, I never meditated before. I thought I was too hyper and I couldn't do it. Doing things for you that are just good for you. It might not be meditating, it might be playing the guitar, but we can heal through those types of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw a meme one day where, they had a jar and then they had a rock and the rock was grief. And they put the rock in the jar and it completely filled the jar. Well, and then, pictures showed different jars where it was more space and more space. The rock didn't change, but the size of the jar did. And the premise is your grief doesn't go away. We just learn to grow around it.
You're the second person who's told me about that, and I'm looking to find it because it's an amazing reference.
I'll have to find it and send it to you. I'll see if I can find it for you. Well, Samantha, this has been fantastic. Unfortunately, this is a topic I could talk about for a very long time. um, you know, and it's nice to be able to connect with somebody who understands it. So when I do, I like get very chatty. So, but this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and again for bringing so much awareness with this event.
It's my pleasure. Listeners, thank you for tuning into this session. We'll talk to you in one of the next sessions.